The year is 2024, and Sony is about to change everything. Again. This time, it's not another Spider-Man reboot. It's bigger, stranger, riskier. They call it Madame Web, a new corner of the Spider-Verse. But no Spider-Man, a psychic paramedic who delivers babies and sees the future, and a line so legendary, it didn't even make it into the final movie. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died. What could possibly go wrong? A lot, actually. This was supposed to be Sony's answer to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A fresh take, a bold vision, the start of a franchise where women saved the multiverse, and maybe even Peter Parker himself. Early rumors promised Spider-Women, psychic powers, and a secret history of spider people dating back to the 70s. Instead, it became a meme. $100 million meme with 11% on Rotten Tomatoes and 3 Razzie Awards for Worst Picture, Worst Actress, and Worst Screenplay. It became the new Morbius. But worse, because this time, we knew what was coming and we still couldn't look away. So, what happened? Let's rewind. Flashback to 2020. Sony's Spider-Man Universe is quietly trying to become a thing. Venom made money. Morbius existed. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, someone at Sony asked, what else do we own the rights to? Enter Madame Web, a psychic wheelchair-bound side character from the comics who mostly just pops up to give Peter Parker cryptic warnings like some psychic HR rep. She's not exactly franchise material, but with superhero fatigue creeping in, Sony wants something different. So they greenlight a film based on Cassandra Webb, and not just any version. They age her down, make her hot, make her run, and throw in 3 teenage girls who, in the comics, will eventually become Spider-Women. They don't have Tom Holland, they can't use the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they do have the rights to Spider-Man adjacent nouns, and that's enough. In 2022, news leaks that Dakota Johnson is cast as Madame Web. The internet does a double take. Sydney Sweeney joins the cast shortly after, and Twitter loses its mind, not over the plot, over the vibes. This is gonna be either the most insane masterpiece or the worst movie ever made. Spoiler, it's not a masterpiece, but for a moment, people are excited. There's fan art, Reddit threads, TikTok speculating about Spider-Verse crossovers. Maybe Sony's finally going to pull off a female-led superhero team-up before Marvel does. There's a glimmer of hope, and then the cracks start showing. At first, the plan sounds simple. Introduce Cassandra Webb, set up the future Spider-Women, and sneak in a soft origin story for Peter Parker, like baby Peter Parker. Yes, that was the actual plan. The early drafts reportedly included a plotline where Cassandra Webb delivers Mary Parker's baby and realizes the newborn is destined to become Spider-Man. That baby? Peter. And Madame Web? Kind of a multiverse midwife. It's weird, but weird sells, or so they think. Sony starts pouring money into the project. They bring in director S.J. Clarkson, known for prestige TV like Jessica Jones and The Defenders. Not exactly blockbuster territory, but it adds credibility. They promise a grounded, character-driven thriller. Think Minority Report, but with spider DNA. The cast balloons: Isabella Merced, Celeste O'Connor, Tahar Rahim, Emma Roberts, Adam Scott. Rumors swirl that Scott is playing Uncle Ben. Others claim he's Richard Parker. Or both. Nobody seems to know, including the cast. The budget quietly grows to $80 million. Sony ramps up licensing deals, action figures, Halloween costumes, even promo tie-ins that hint at Tom Holland's Spider-Man. The studio really believes they have something here. A breakout hit, a feminist twist on the Spider-Verse, a bold new direction. But behind the scenes, it's chaos. By mid-2023, the buzz turns sour. Reports leak that major scenes have been cut, that the plot's been reworked, that Sony originally pitched this as a multiversal rescue story where the girls save baby Peter Parker, and Marvel said no. Marvel reportedly passed on folding Madame Web into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Without that connection, the entire story had to be rewritten. Again and again. Internally, the creative direction splinters. Is this a dark sci-fi thriller? A teen superhero origin story? A Spider-Man prequel? Nobody knows. Least of all, the cast. During the press tour, Dakota Johnson is asked about the film's tone. Her response? I honestly have no idea what this movie is. It changed a lot. Oof. Sydney Sweeney is asked who she plays. She shrugs. A Spider-Woman, I think? Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Sony axes merchandising deals that reference the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Spider-Women Save Peter Parker plotline? Cancelled. Entire sequences are scrapped, deleted, rewritten mid-shoot. Crew members talk anonymously about night shoots with no clear direction, about scenes being filmed with no idea whether they'll make it into the final cut. One insider calls it Sony's New Mutants. Another calls it a franchise pilot without a show. Still, Sony charges ahead, because the worst is yet to come. So, what do you do when your $80 million superhero movie has no clear plot, no Marvel Cinematic Universe support, and a cast that's openly confused? You overcompensate.
In pleasing other characters, the tone of Madame Web fits uncomfortably between psychological thriller and coming-of-age road trip dramedy, but the quips and visual humor, like Cassie's attempt to climb walls of the latter, hamper the former. This is a movie where the plot is driven by a man trying to kill 3 future Spider-Women in very violent ways.
Hard, Sony leans into marketing like their lives depend on it, because in a way, they kind of do. The studio starts spinning Madame Web as a standalone origin story. It's about destiny, they say. It's about strong women, they insist. It's a thriller. It's a character study. It's for Spider-Man fans. It's not a Spider-Man movie. They try everything. They release a trailer that feels like it was edited by AI. It includes the now infamous line, "He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died." This line becomes the Morbin time of 2024. Instantly iconic, hilariously baffling. The internet latches on. Meme accounts go wild. People re-edit the trailer with dramatic zooms and laugh tracks. Someone adds the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme after the line. Another turns it into a club remix.
Director S.J. Clarkson answering your burning questions. Then get ready, web slingers, because here we go.
You are the only one who can change the future.
After an action-packed journey that set Cassie Webb, Julia Cromwell, Anya Corazon, and Maddie Franklin on their fateful path, the film comes to its climax when the crew battles Ezekiel Sims in...
Even though the line never makes it into the final film, it lives forever online. As does the growing sense that this movie might be hilarious, but not in the way Sony intended. Sony releases TV spots during NFL games, launches TikTok challenges, pushes Dakota Johnson into awkward interviews where she gamely tries to sell a film she clearly doesn't understand. It's all damage control, and it's not working. The memes are outpacing the marketing. Fast. Valentine's Day, 2024. Theaters are packed, sort of. Madame Web opens wide across the US, facing minimal competition. It's Sony's moment to prove the doubters wrong. Instead, the reviews hit, and they're brutal. Rotten Tomatoes, 11%, Metacritic, 26 out of 100. Letterboxd, a feeding frenzy. YouTubers tear it apart frame by frame. TikTok is flooded with edits mocking the dialogue, the stilted performances, the baffling exposition, and of course, Mr. Amazon Spider research. Audiences laugh out loud in theaters, not during jokes, during emotional scenes. Dakota Johnson's monotone voice becomes the stuff of legend. Every line sounds like she's reading a script she just saw for the first time. Maybe she is. The movie limps to $26 million during the 6-day opening. It barely claws past $100 million globally before sputtering out. For context, that's less than what the Emoji Movie made. But here's the twist. 2 months later, it drops on Netflix, and it explodes. 1.16 billion minutes watched in the first week. It nearly outperformed Deadpool and Wolverine in streaming viewership. It beats the Marvels. It beats Craven, which, to be fair, isn't hard. People aren't watching because it's good. They're watching because it's that bad. Because it's a meme. Because they want to see the train wreck for themselves. Somehow, Sony made a film so awful, it became unmissable. Sony doesn't blink. No apology. No, we miscalculated. No reflection. Instead, they brag. Streaming success becomes the new narrative. In press interviews, executives tout the incredible performance on Netflix. Internally, some claim it was all part of the plan. Lean into the meme economy. Let the internet do the marketing for free. And technically, it works. Madame Web trends for weeks. Reaction videos. So bad it's genius essays. TikToks reenacting scenes with AI voice filters. One guy even sells a shirt that just says, he was in the Amazon with my mom. Reddit crowns it the funniest unintentional comedy since Cats. Meanwhile, Dakota Johnson publicly nopes out of the genre. When asked if she'd do another superhero movie, she says, "I probably will never do anything like it again because I don't make sense in that world." Sydney Sweeney moves on to Anyone But You and Immaculate, both hits.
If you can believe it, it looks like despite the fact Madam Web was such a huge commercial as well as critical failure when it was released just a few months ago, the movie is doing pretty well on streaming services. According to the Netflix chart, it's actually reached number 2 on the top 10 most streamed movie chart, so that's pretty good all things considered. Now, I don't automatically believe the numbers that streaming services are reporting about themselves because they kind of have.
People forget she was even in this thing. Sony quietly shelves the Spider-Women spin-offs, cancels Craven's sequel, the Spider-Verse shrinks overnight, the Spider-Noir show still in development, but now everyone's watching closely, waiting for the next meme drop. As for the fans, they've weaponized irony into an art form. They still quote the movie, still post the Amazon line, still wonder what the hell the actual plot was. It becomes less of a movie and more of a collective fever dream. A $100 million fever dream, now streaming in HD. So what did Madame Web really cost us? Not just money, not just box office credibility, but belief. There was a moment, brief, flickering, where people thought this could be something new. A Spider-Verse story that didn't rely on Peter Parker. A female-led franchise that didn't feel like a corporate checkbox. A weird, bold gamble that might actually pay off. Instead, we got the cinematic equivalent of a shrug, a film so disconnected from its own ideas, it couldn't even keep its own trailer quotes straight. A movie that wanted to launch a universe but couldn't figure out what its main character believed in. A studio so focused on IP ownership that it forgot to make anything people actually wanted to see. Madame Web didn't just fail, it collapsed under the weight of its own potential. And in that collapse, it became something else, something rarer, something unforgettable. It became a punchline, but a punchline that reminds us of something real, that even billion-dollar studios don't know what makes something click, that you can spend millions chasing relevance and still miss the mark by a mile, that sometimes all it takes to connect with an audience is to become the joke they needed that week. The memes will fade, the streaming numbers will be forgotten, but Madame Web will live forever in a very specific part of internet history, right next to Morbius, and we wouldn't have it any other way. You could argue Madame Web didn't fail. It just succeeded in the weirdest way possible. It didn't inspire awe. It didn't build a universe, but it built something else. It built community. A community of people who watched it just to see if it was really that bad. A community of creators who remixed its worst moments into comedy gold. A generation of film fans who now use Amazon with my mom as cultural shorthand for, what the hell was that script? Sony may have tried to copy the Marvel formula, but what they ended up with was more like The Room, just with more leather jackets and CGI spiders. And maybe that's okay, because in a media landscape flooded with overproduced, underwritten content desperately trying to start a universe, Madame Web stands alone. Not as a pillar of storytelling, not as a feminist milestone, but as a reminder that no matter how many big names you cast, no matter how many streaming minutes you rack up, no matter how many times you slap Spider on something, you still have to tell a story people care about. And if you don't, well, the internet's always ready to take your masterpiece and turn it into the funniest thing we've ever seen. Cue the credits.